All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and salutations to the brethren that are pushing out this word in truth and in sincerity. All right, this is your brother Yahweh Olive from GMS Chicago, coming to get at you again with another lesson. All right, now in this video, I'm going to go into the topic of, how nowadays a lot of these females are out here hung up on the concept of love and hung up on jealousy. All right, the whole concept that came out from the West, that you gotta find your one true love and get together, and that's the only way that it can be. But in reality, in the reality of the world and in reality of the scriptures, that's not the the end all be all, so to say. All right, it's not required. All right, though it is a plus, if you could say that. Like it's nothing wrong with it, but to be married due to love. But according to the scriptures and even in history, it hasn't always been so. All right. So, Lord willing, I'm going to bring out a few precepts, and I praise the edifying lesson. Salakia. Okay. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31 and verse 22. It says, "How long wilt thou go about, O backsliding daughter? For the Lord had created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man." And, through this concept, women have gotten a lot of authority over a lot of households today, man. Okay, this whole one woman to one man, and really that's what you see in a lot of these households. It's the women running the man. The man got to go about quote unquote cheating, like hiding and stuff. When that's a relatively new concept. All right, never before in history have you seen that. Men have always ruled their households, and now you got men tiptoeing around their women. What they can say, what they can do, what et cetera, et cetera. What they could believe in. All right. Nowadays, men are tiptoeing, and also, and that's through the push of Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. He's brought this concept into the world, all right, and also, he's also giving them a lot of opportunities to gain more power and more money than their male counterparts, all right. So now there's this pride in there as well, okay. So that's a new thing, but according to the scriptures, what's going to come is going to be something different. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 4 and 1. It says, "And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, We will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach." Okay? So in the time when how they say it, shit hits the fan. All right, when the time of Jacob's trouble comes, all right, when the famines come, when the wars come, that whole finding your one true love concept is going to get thrown out the window. Ultimately, like Scripture says in Genesis, it says that the man shall rule over his woman. Ultimately, a woman is going to be happy when they find a man that they can look up to, all right, and that, because at the end of the day, they want to link to that man and have a family with him, all right. That's the natural order of a family household is the man as the head, and the woman being a helpmeet, like the scripture says unto him, being a help. All right. So when there aren't any more 911s, when there isn't any groceries you can run to, or isn't money that you can hold over a man, the women are going to get humbled again and seek a man, specifically a man of the Lord, because in that time, the protection and that hedge around the man that the Most High is dealing with is going to be seen. All right. They're going to be delivered out of troubles. All right. They're going to be protected. And women can see that, man. They see where there's security. All right. And that's going to be amongst the men of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. So this is why they're going to be coming to that one man, 7 women, saying that they're even going to eat their own bread and they're going to make their own clothes. All right. They just want to be called by his name. And usually, and not usually, but when a woman gets with a man, she takes on her name. So they become married. Okay. To take away their reproach. This is what's coming. Okay. And I got a couple examples here, even showing righteous men of the Lord having said multiple women. All right. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 35 and verse 22. Just so you can see that I'm not coming out of left field, but it's very well documented. Genesis 35 and 22, it says, "And it came to pass when Israel dwelt in the land that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine." Those are wicked works right there. But specifically, I wanted to read this last portion of the scripture because it lets you know it's talking about Jacob. It says, "And Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. Now this is where the 12 tribes of Israel come. All right, from Jacob, the son of Leah. So that's one woman that Jacob had, Leah. The sons were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. And it says the sons of Rachel. This is his other wife. It says Joseph and Benjamin, and the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid. So even Rachel gave Jacob her own handmaid, and her name was Bilhah. It says Dan and Naphtali, the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid. So even Leah, Rachel's sister, she even also gave her own handmaid. And they had Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which are born to him in Padanaram. All right. So it lets you know right there, it's not frowned upon in the scriptures. This is a man whom the Lord blessed, through whom he blessed his people, Jacob. His name was later changed to Israel. Okay. So those that fear Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai and seek his ways ought to really put this to mind, that this whole, finding your one true love is not necessarily a bad thing, but the extra things that come with it, the whole jealousy, or it could only be you type mindset, you putting that authority over that man, it's not biblical. All right, it's completely not biblical. All right, and the time to come, like we read in Isaiah 4:1, is showing that time is going to come back again. And if you haven't, considered this or seen this, you're going to get caught. You're going to get caught. How they say, you're going to get sideswiped, man. You're going to get caught from left field. All right, you're going to get caught unawares, and bucking up to something that the Lord, and find yourself bucking up against something that the Lord has set up. All right. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 12 and verse 1. All right. And this shows Moses too, how he also had another woman. Real quick, this is Numbers 12 and 1. It says, "And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. But previously he had married Zipporah as well." All right. And Miriam and Aaron were upset at Moses because of this. But later on, if you read through the story, Miriam and Aaron were upset. But later on, if you read the story, it shows that they got judged for coming up against Moses. And then Moses, hadn't done anything wrong. Okay. So that's the point. just shows that, you know, he had a Zipporah and he had this Ethiopian woman. All right. Those are just two quick points that I wanted to show. To back up what was said in Isaiah 4. All right. Here in the red letter, which lets you know it's Yahushai speaking. I'll start off in verse 28. This is Matthew 19 and 28. It says, "And Yahushai said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, he also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel." All right. He's talking to his elect. All right. That, you know, that are going to be set up in the kingdom. Here's the point in verse 29. "And every one that have forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or fathers, or mothers, or wife, or children, or lands for my name's sake." Now, it doesn't mean you just forsake them for any reason. You know, they got to come between you and serving the Most High. You know, that's when you forsake them for the name of the Lord. Now, if they don't, you know, the scripture says if your woman goes the way that you would like, you know, forsake her not. All right. But that being said, you know, none of these, like the apostles say, man, none of these women are 100% in the truth, because pertaining to this topic, if you tell them to go get you another woman, they're not going to do it, you know, because that Babylonian spirit got to ultimately be destroyed, you know, got to be pulled down. And we're still here in the time of the Gentiles, man, you know, but nevertheless, a man as a man has to hold his integrity to the Most High, aside from whatever anybody else is doing. Okay, so let me keep going. It says, "And everyone that have forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or fathers, or mothers, or wife, or children, or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold, and shall inherit everlasting life." So you're going to get 100-fold of these things. Okay, and that included a wife, that included brethren, that included houses. All right, the scripture clearly telling you that, man. And another one to back it up in Isaiah 60 verse 21, it says, "Thy people shall be all righteous." I'm talking about the kingdom. We're all going to be in the right order. It says, "They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time." So there you go. Even one man will become 1,000 people, and that will be through that 100-fold, the 100-fold that he's going to receive. That Isaiah 4 and 1. All right, because a woman can only have a child within the span of 9 months. Okay. To become 1,000, you know, you're going to definitely need more. But this is all just to cut the concept of what Esau Edom has brought to you, all right, and has used to enslave men in their own houses, you know, setting up a woman over them. All right, I have a few side points here to prove that, you know, because this whole marrying for love is really a new concept, you know. It says, I asked here on Google, it says, when did people start marrying for love? It says the concept of marrying for love, rather than primarily for practical reasons like alliances or wealth, gained prominence in the Western world during the 18th and 19th century, which is talking about the 1700s and the 1800s. Okay. So what was also going on during that time? All right. So this is the Western world. They were living it up, being in love, getting married during what time? All right. When the peak of the transatlantic slave trade was around 1780 and 1807. Okay. Which it started before that, and it kept going after that too. Even to this day, we are yet in this land, they in our captivity. But the rise of people falling in love for marriage was during the time when our people were in slavery. All right, it shows the indifference of Esau Edom and their hatred towards us, and how little, they esteem us, man. You know, so, it just goes to show like how they, how we're all hung up on it now, but it wasn't even so for a large period of the world, and it happened during the time when they were putting chains on our necks, man. Okay. Let me see here. I typed this in because I told him, I asked ChatGPT, if it was a new concept. He said yes, it was a new concept. And then I asked it, so it was happening during the time of slavery. It said not exactly, because he was trying to say that I was correlating the two, but I told him that I wasn't. It says, and this was his response. It says, got it. Thanks for clarifying. Yes, you're absolutely right. It says the emergence of marrying for love as a cultural ideal was happening during roughly the same historical period as slavery in the West, especially from the 17th through the 19th century. That's a long time, man. They were living it up while we were in chains, man. It says it's important to point out that these social changes were unfolding simultaneously, even though they affected different groups in very different ways. While free Europeans and European descendant populations were increasingly embracing romantic love as reasons to marry, enslaved people were often denied the right to legally marry or maintain stable families due to the brutal realities of slavery. Okay? So while they were doing that, all right, our people were messed up, man. Okay? And I told you, it just shows their indifference, them having love marriages. Them having love marriages was not deterred due to the people being in captivity. It says that's a real poignant observation. And you go into the word poignant. It says poignant describes something that deeply affects the feeling, especially with strong sense of sadness and regret. Because it truly was a very sad thing. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with marrying for love, but it's the modern version of they bring it to you, and now the woman has got to be the only one. Now, he pretty much he gotta because they're in love, he got to do everything for her. He got to be essentially her helpmeet. When truly it was the other way around. Okay. But nevertheless, these Edomites were living it up through that practice. Okay, when we were getting jacked up. It says, and yes, it does highlight a deep moral and social contradiction of that era, because these Edomites are hypocrites, man. All right. It says the fact that romantic love and marriage's ideals were becoming celebrated and prioritized among free populations, while at the same time millions of people were enslaved and denied basic human rights, including the right to form families and marry freely. And ultimately, Esau Edom put that practice over us because he knows that Jake can have a lot of children. You just sneeze on Jake and they have a child. And if they put multiple wives with that, then you can create a whole town, man. You could create a whole, section just from one family. All right. And Esau Edom, they barely struggle to push out one or two children. All right. But that's enough of that. I'll finish it off with this last precept here. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 35 and verse 21. All right. Because a lot of people will talk bad about arranged marriages or, having, multiple women, that it's, that it's like somehow bringing down the woman or something like that. But according to Sirach 36 and verse 21, it says, a woman will receive every man, yet is one daughter better than another. So the way that the Lord set it up is that a woman can receive any man, or every man really, is just, you know, it says, but one's better than another. Of course, you're going to pick the one that fears the Most High. All right. But it shows that a woman is able and will be willing to receive any man. Even to this day, you got women that get with men simply for their money. You got women that get men for solely their looks. Okay. And that's them making those decisions. And, a lot of people will be like, oh, how can he be with her? Or how can she be with him? But these are these people making the decisions. And even, and so you can see that, that it could go any which way. And even amongst arranged marriages, it's been shown and proven that they last longer than when a woman picks, man. A woman picks, she ends up picking 10, 5, 10, 100 different people, man. And that has been the example. All right. But ultimately, all that being said, when the men of the Lord get set up, it's going to be everyone. It's going to, a woman is going to feel blessed just to be with that man because he's protected of the Most High. All right. And that point, it's not going to be, they won't have to look at, oh, what's his character like? Is he making any money? Because the character is going to be that of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Okay. He's going to be protected. He's going to have money. He's going to have wealth. All right. And you see it all with famous people all the time, how many women flock to men that either have authority or have fame, all that, let me see what you're about gets thrown out the window. All those women are ready to receive that one man. So it's the same thing with this concept, man. Any man can get any woman. Okay. But at the end of the day, all these women are going to want a man of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, as we read in Isaiah 4:1. So I'll leave y'all with that. I pray this was an edifying lesson. Like always, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, B'Shem Rakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and salutations to the brethren pushing forth this word in truth and in sincerity. Until the next one, brothers, say shalom, and as always, Kwam Yasharallah and Abba Ball.